Hello, friends of Spain. I hope this email finds you doing well tonight. Um, as a group, we were talking and we have some important information to share with you. And we've noticed that in a lot of our meetings, we either find that some of the same people show up, or oftentimes students aren't able to come because of work obligations or sports obligations. It seemed like maybe doing a YouTube video would just be a better way to reach everyone. And in this video, I have a lot of important information to share. So I felt like the YouTube video would just be a great way to reach you. We would like for you, please, to watch this video. Parents, please watch it in detail. Please share it with your students, your children, allow them to see the video as well. And of course, if you have any questions, let me know. The cool thing about the YouTube video is that you can stop and restart as many times as you need to. So if you're like, hey, I just really didn't understand this one part, I need to replay this, you have the opportunity to do that as many times as you need to. Um, Many of you know this already, but I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to attend a training, a conference for program leaders in Madrid, Spain. It just happened to take place in Spain, but there were people there from um, other areas of Explorica who were traveling for other reasons. Like I said, it just happened to be in Madrid, which was perfect for our group, and I learned a lot of things from many of the speakers that I felt would be very helpful to you. We're going to talk about those things, but before we do, in previous meetings, we've talked a lot about some of the rules that we've set, such as making sure that students are not drinking alcohol or sneaking out. We will have some forms we have you sign, making you agree to those things as we get a little closer to time. Regarding passports, if you have not gotten your passport yet, you need to get on that. Okay, we're sort of running out of time, and those things do take quite a bit of time. So please make sure that you have your passport um, on order if you've not done so already. In past meetings, we've also talked about luggage and the types of luggage you should bring, the size of those items, outlet converters for charging your phones while abroad, since the outlet plugs are not the same in Europe. Um, and then we also talked about just some general safety things, such as men purchasing the wallets that can be worn around your neck, and ladies wearing kabu bags that can be worn in the front so that you can hold the strap. Um, if you are unsure of any of those things, or maybe a little foggy on those things, you can go back and check your email. You should have links to suggested luggage sizes, outlet converters you can purchase on Amazon, as well as wallets to be worn around the neck, which are great for safety. So check your email on that. If you have any questions, please do let me know. As we get started with today's video, I want to talk a lot about the things that we should be doing before departure, so before we leave. I am going to share a packing list with you at our next in-person meeting, and we will talk a little bit more about those dates and find a day that works for everyone soon. But I'll be sharing a more detailed packing list with you soon. But just so you kind of have an idea of how things will work, students and all travelers will be allowed 3 items total. One of those will be your checked bag, your suitcase that you're actually dropping off at Tri-Cities and you won't see it again until you get to Madrid. So that checked bag. You also are allowed 1 carry-on and 1 personal item. So for me, my personal item is always a backpack. I know, ladies, a lot of you like to carry purses. That works as well as your personal item. Something to know about your carry-on. This happened to me when traveling for the conference. You may have to check your carry-on plane side, so it may not be available to you during your actual flight from Charlotte to Madrid, or from Atlanta to Madrid, whatever it may be. You may not have that for your flight, okay? And then, of course, making sure you're not bringing any food or drinks or anything like that with you, either going or coming internationally. The flights will serve multiple meals. I know that whenever we flew Delta, and Explorica shared that that was one of their preferred travel companies, so their preferred airlines. Delta is great about serving multiple meals and snacks and beverages and all those things on your flight. So you don't have any reason to really bring any food or drink of your own with you. Okay. Now, this is just a me thing, but I would suggest that your initial bag that you're checking in Tri-Cities weigh no more than about 30 pounds. A good thing to do if you're looking at wondering maybe how to uh, calculate the weight of your bag, you can place the empty bag on a bathroom scale and figure out what its weight is. Go ahead and fill it up with your items and then put it back on the scale. We're shooting for around 30 pounds um, total in weight for your bag. That gives you a little bit of room in there to bring things home, and I'm sure that everybody will want to bring some souvenirs home. I also recommend rolling your clothing as opposed to just stuffing it in there or folding it in the traditional way like you might your laundry. I recommend rolling instead just to have a little bit more space. That'll also be helpful as you're coming home so you can pack things that might be breakable. Um, we will be given an Explorica luggage tag. We'll have one of those for all travelers, both students and parents. So you'll have one of those, and we want to make sure that everyone uses the Explorica luggage tag on your checked bag. This will help us when we arrive in Madrid and we're standing around the conveyor belt and there are hundreds of bags coming around. It'll be helpful for us to identify the ones with Explorica tags. In addition to that, I'm also going to purchase some bandanas on Amazon that we can all tie onto our bags as well, just for a little bit of added reassurance and quickly identifying those bags, just in case we do have another Explorica group traveling at the same time, which they shared is a possibility. Okay, so you should get those Explorica tags in the mail closer to time, and the bandanas I will give to you in one of our meetings. Okay, here's just a picture of what the rolled clothing looks like. It's just helpful for being space efficient. As far as your carry-on goes, in your carry-on, I would try to plan for just emergencies. In the event that your checked bag got lost, could you survive for a couple of days? Okay, so I recommend, if you wear contacts, make sure you have your solution in there, just a very small bottle, of course, the size that's okay for an airplane. Make sure you have your contact case. If you really need makeup or a toothbrush or whatever it might be, make sure you have that in there. I always put my phone chargers and that kind of stuff in my carry-on as well. Um, I recommend a change of clothes so that if you do, like I said, not have your check bag, you can always change clothes. It's also good to have any kind of medication that you may take in that check bag as well. Now, we talked about this in an earlier meeting, but if you take any kind of over the counter or any kind of prescription medication, either way, whether it's an over the counter medication here or a prescription medication here, you want to make sure you check with the Spanish embassy that that drug is allowed in Europe. Okay, even things here that are okay for us to transport may not be legal in Europe. So make sure that you just check that out. For basic things like ibuprofen or Dramamine, you're fine, okay? But if you have something really specific that you take or anything you might have a question about, just make sure that you check with the Spanish Embassy. I sent you that link in an email as well earlier in the semester, so you should have that on file to check with as well. Um, so you have that information. I also recommend keeping a copy of your prescription from your primary care provider. Keep that in your carry-on as well, so that if anyone going through your bags, which they will check thoroughly, make sure that you have that prescription so that there is any question, they can look and see that you're prescribed this medication for XYZ reason. Another good rule about your carry-on, guys, I always tell students, if you can't lift it above your head, you don't need to bring it as a carry-on, okay? Because you are going to be lugging all of these things around. Not to mention, at one point, you will have a checked bag, a carry-on, and a personal item probably all at once. So if you can't lift it above your head to put it in the compartment at the airport, you probably don't need to bring it with you in your carry-on, okay? This is something that was recommended to me at the training that was just a really great idea. So as we are in the Tri-Cities airport, before we leave, I will take a picture of all of you. I'm going to be there to meet you at the door as you come in, and we'll be assigning you numbers at that time and doing some other things, and that number will stick with you for the duration of our trip. But I am going to greet you at the door, and I'm going to take a picture of you with your checked bag, your personal item, and your carry-on, as well as the outfit that you're currently wearing. I want to get a picture of all of that, just so in the event that there are any problems or anything, we can say, hey, this is what Luke Hare's bag looks like, and this is what his suitcase looks like. We're missing this one. This is what it looks like. And it's also just good for general safety. If anything were to happen, we have a picture of you recent right then with what you're wearing. Heaven forbid someone went missing, we could say, oh gosh, Riley Nelson, she was wearing a gray hoodie with black sweatpants and teal tennis shoes, and she had on purple earrings, and like we can just, have a perfect example of what Riley Nelson was wearing. Okay, uh, just in the event that something did happen. Okay, right now, this is very important from you guys. Before we leave, I'm going to need a lot of information from you. Okay, specifically, right this minute, I need a copy of your passport. Okay, so please take a picture of it with your phone, email it to me, make a copy, send your child with it to school. I need a copy of all travelers' passports. I have to keep those on file for Explorica. And as we begin to schedule flights, which will happen sometime in the spring semester, and they will not be finalized until about 2 weeks before we leave. But as they do begin scheduling flights now, we want to make sure that the name on your passport matches your flight information exactly. So, my full name is Matthew Todd Harrison, and a lot of times I go by Matt. We want to make sure that my flight information says Matthew Todd Harrison because that's what's on my passport, and it needs to match exactly. Okay, that's very, very important when you're going through customs and stuff like that. So it must match exactly. So I need a copy of your passport, please. And I want to make sure that everything on file with Explorica with your name on it matches your passport exactly. Okay. So I will double check all of those. You can double check as well on the Explorica Tour Center when you registered, but I will double check those and correspond with Explorica for any differences as well. Okay, so in addition to your passport, before we leave, and you can turn these into me anytime. I need the passport now. The other stuff you can kind of turn in as you have time. I need a copy of your U.S. insurance documents, just showing that you do have insurance in the United States. I need a copy of your travel protection plan agreement with TripMate. That's the additional travel insurance if you elected to pay the extra money for that added insurance, which I recommended that all travelers do. Please provide me with a copy of that as well. I need emergency contact information for at least 3 people in your family while you're gone. Um, and I'm going to have a couple of forms that we have you sign right before we leave. One of them is just a release of liability from the school, just stating that the school is not responsible for anything that happens while you are gone. And the other thing is that we will need a behavioral contract for all students, stating that you will not be consuming alcohol while you're there, you'll not be sneaking out, and you won't be going out alone. Finally, one thing that's very helpful, an extra passport photo. So, heaven forbid you were to get to Europe and you were to lose your passport. That's why the U.S. Embassy is there, and we'll have people who will work with us if that were to happen. But something that's unique, the actual passport photo, and I'll show you a picture of one in a moment. The actual passport photo, the thing that you had to attach to your application, and you probably went to Walgreens or CVS and took a picture of one of these. They are different sizes in Europe. So if you had to get a new passport and we had to go somewhere and take a picture of you in Europe, that picture that you took there would not match with the size of the US passport photo. And it just creates a hassle and it just takes even longer. So we don't want anyone to get stuck. So if you do have an extra passport photo, it's something that I can stick in this notebook with all of this information, and I will have it there if we ever needed it, okay? My plan is to collect all this information from you, the passport, the insurance documents, the emergency contact info, extra passport photos, all the liability forms, all of that, and keep it in a notebook in my suitcase. I'm also going to make a second notebook, which Michelle Holly, our assistant principal, who is also going with us, she will have a copy of the second notebook. So 2 people on our tour will have it. Mr. Hare will have a copy at home as well in case we needed to phone home for anything. And then I will also scan a Google Doc and have an electronic copy of that for us while we're abroad in the event that anything were lost. So we'll be extra prepared for that, but we definitely want to have all that information with us at all times. Okay? So immediately, please get me your passports, your passport copies, but everything else you can kind of turn in as you think about it. Sooner rather than later would be great. Um, Talked about that already. Here's a picture of the passport photos for the United States. The sizes are just a little different in Europe. Okay, something else, we talked about this in a meeting as well. I recommend purchasing a data plan for emergencies while you're there. This is just helpful on all fronts for everyone going. So, if your child has a data plan and they want to call you or text you or send you pictures, um, they can do that. And the charge to you is only $10 per day for unlimited calls, text, and data usage. Now, that $10 per day is if you have Verizon. I don't know about AT&T or Sprint or any of the other services, but with Verizon, it's $10 a day. They can turn it on the day you leave and turn it off the day you come back, and it just allows your traveler to be able to communicate with you in the event of an emergency. It's also very helpful to us. God forbid that something did happen there and we got separated or whatever. Your student can call myself, they can call the other parents, the other chaperones. We can communicate and have phones in the event that something did happen. So I strongly, strongly recommend the data plan. But if it is financially burdensome for you or you're not able to do that, I will have my phone. You're more than welcome to contact your child using my phone or a friend's phone while we're there. But I strongly recommend the data plan. Okay. Um, I know a lot of our students who are traveling have never flown on planes and have never navigated an airport. So we're going to talk in just a moment about how to navigate an airport and some of the things that are unique to international travel that you may not have experienced just traveling domestically. Okay. Most importantly, if you're feeling really anxious or you're stressed about traveling or you just have some nerves, please feel free to come and talk to me about those things at any time. Okay. It's not something we want to address on the plane as we're taking off. Okay. And I totally understand your concerns. I remember my first flight was an international flight as well. It's when I traveled to Rome, Italy as a student, and I was just gripping the little armrest in the plane. I was sweating. I was so nervous. I was, praying, oh my gosh, texting everybody in my family, please take care of my dog. Mental breakdown here. And that very first time you fly can be very nerve-wracking. So I completely understand that. I'll be glad to talk with you about that. And we will be bringing Dramamine and things like that in the event that anyone has motion sickness on the plane. Here's something really important about your travel that you may not have thought about. This is something that I did not think about but learned in the training. Um, as you are going through customs, entering Spain, they may ask you why are you coming to their country? Why are you there? And saying, "Oh, I'm here on vacation," or "I'm here studying abroad," is a great answer, but that's not sufficient. They may ask you, "Okay, well, where are you going to be staying? Well, how many days are you going to be here? Where all are you going?" And you need to make sure you've reviewed the itinerary, you know where we're going to be, or at least a general gist of that. Something that I'd like for all travelers to do in your travel wallet, I'd like for you to keep a copy of the hotel's address. This will be helpful to us as we're there if something happened and you needed to say, hey, here's an Uber, take me to my hotel. You have that address and you can pull it out in the event of emergency. If you need to type it into a GPS on your phone on Google Maps, hey, here's this address. It's going to walk me back. I just got lost on a street and I need to walk back over. Boop, 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 plop it in your phone. It's going to take you back. Another reason why having a data plan could be helpful. So I want that hotel's address programmed into your phone, and we will have that address several weeks before we travel. Okay. I also want the U.S. Embassy's information either programmed into your phone or in a paper copy in your wallet, or both. Just so if something did happen and we have to go to the embassy, we all have that address and we know where to go. Okay. So that's kind of what we're going to do before we depart. As far as during departure, we've tried to establish some procedures that I think will make the travel process just a lot easier for all involved. So, what we're going to do, we're going to assign all students and all adults a number. Now, I know that as an adult, it can probably be maybe seem a little childish for you to have a number. It's nothing, and not meant to be disrespectful or anything like that to you, parents. It's just this is a great way for us to stay organized and for us to know who is there at all times. So, as you arrive to the airport, I will have a list alphabetized of all of our travelers, and everyone will have their own specific number. Okay, you will get that number, and that number will be your number until we return to the Tri Cities after our trip is over. Um, because when we're in these very large squares and plazas and museums, it's going to be really loud. There's going to be other groups there as well. So it may not just be Sullivan East High School students traveling in Madrid, Spain at this hotel. There may be other groups there as well, full of just as many people, if not more. Same thing when we're loading the bus and we're traveling around throughout the city, there will be another school on our bus with us. So to take time to call roll and say, okay, Emmy Fox, Braden Stambridge, Teresa Nelson, and have to go down the list and get everyone to say here, it's just going to take a lot of time. Whereas if we start with a number and we say, okay, 1, 2, 3, and we go all the way down the list until all 21 people are accounted for, if we get to number 16 and number 17 never says anything, and we're like, oh gosh, who's number 17? Oh, that's Miss Holly. Where's Miss Holly? Oh, she must have drifted off. She's probably looking at something shiny, right? And we want to say, okay, well, we got to wait on Miss Holly before we leave. And so it's just going to allow us to stay in a group and make sure that no one goes missing. Okay, so everyone's getting in a number. As far as navigating the airport, this is going to be the trickiest part. I don't really worry about us sticking together in Spain. The airport is going to be hard because, if you've ever been in a very large airport like Atlanta or you've ever been in an international terminal, you know that they kind of hustle you along. They don't want you to stand, they want you to keep moving. There is no like loitering or standing around. Um, so we will get our specific flight details about 2 weeks prior to our trip. I've requested that we fly out of Tri-Cities and that we only have one connecting flight. So we'll probably go from Tri-Cities to Charlotte and from Charlotte to Madrid, or we'll go from Tri-Cities to Atlanta and Atlanta to Madrid. Okay. Um, Either way, it's just a good idea to have a general idea of our process. So when you initially arrive at Tri-Cities, as I said, I'm going to take a picture of you with your luggage, your carry-on, and your personal item, and I'm going to give you your assigned number that you'll keep for the remainder of the trip. Um, as you enter the Tri-Cities airport, if you've ever traveled before, you know there'll be different little areas there. You'll see Delta, you'll see American Airlines. I've requested that we fly Delta because that's my preferred flight, and I've always had great experiences with Delta, so that's my preference. As to what we actually get, I don't know, but that's what I've requested. So we'll go to whatever little window there, hopefully Delta. You will put your suitcase up on the little weight thingy, and they will weigh your suitcase and give you your approximate weight. At that time, they will ask for your passport. They will scan it and run it through their machine, and they will give you 2 boarding passes. One of those will be from Tri-Cities to Atlanta, and the other one will be from Atlanta to Madrid. Same thing if we were traveling through Charlotte. You're going to take those 2 boarding passes, and you'll still have your carry-on, you'll still have your backpack, but you will no longer have your check bag. They'll take that away from you. And you will go ahead and walk over to the top of the descending elevator or escalator, excuse me. There's a little escalator security area where you'll be standing right outside of security, and that's where we're all going to wait until all 21 travelers have gotten there. Okay, and there's a little seating area. You can sit there. Parents can still go and sit and talk to their child, and hug on your child and take pictures and all those things before we leave. You can do that as you're standing there outside of the security area in Tri-Cities. Okay, once all 21 people are accounted for, we will all go through security together and take off our shoes and our belts and all that good stuff. We'll go through security. We have to pull our laptops out as their own thing to go in one bin. Everything else can go in the other bin, but your laptops will need to stay in one. They'll put all of that through our x-ray machine as well as our carry-ons and our personal items. We'll go through this little x-ray thingy. They'll scan us and make sure we're good, and we'll go on through. Once we get through that process, we're going to go ahead and wait until all 21 people have gone through. This is where we may run into an issue because there's so many of us, we don't want to bottleneck and cause a line. They won't allow that, so that they may cause us to go ahead and go down the escalator and wait into that little general area where the bathrooms are at the bottom of Tri-Cities. If that's the case, that's okay. We'll just go on down and we'll all wait there together until all 21 people are accounted for. We'll go find our terminal to go sit as if we were getting ready to fly to Atlanta or Charlotte or whatever, and we'll go ahead and take our flight there. be prepared because there are so many of us. It's very possible they may ask us to check all of our carry-ons plainside. That happened to me in both flights, both from Tri-Cities to Atlanta and from Atlanta to Madrid. Both times I did not have my carry-on with me. It was on the plane, but it was not in my sight or in my possession. So just be aware of that. Okay. Um, Now, once we arrive in Atlanta, we will go ahead and grab all of our carry-ons if they were checked plainside, and we're going to try as quickly as possible to navigate to our terminal. I'm hoping that we have a nice little layover in Atlanta, but you never know. There are times when you have hours and other times when you have 45 minutes. So we're going to book it as fast as we can. Again, we're going to try to stay together at all times possible, but this is where it's going to get a little hairy in the airport. Okay, so in the event that one of us is separated or something happens, any student just needs to make sure that they stay with an adult from our group. Okay, it's very likely that we will all be on the same flight from Atlanta to Madrid, but that is not guaranteed. We'll be able to look at our flights and compare that kind of thing in advance and know, okay, but we don't know that we'll be in the same terminal. That's not for sure, okay? So again, you just want to make sure you stick with an adult in our group before you navigate any further in the airport. That should be really easy because we're all going to be getting off of the same plane off of Tri-Cities, okay? From there, we're going to go ahead and find our terminal um, flying from Atlanta to Madrid. We'll go ahead and find where it is, and if we do have any kind of layover, we may run to the food court, we may get food, we may go to the bathrooms, do that kind of stuff, and then we'll go and get on our flight later. But we definitely want to make sure we find our terminal first. So before anybody goes to the bathroom, before we make any kind of stops, we want to find that terminal, make sure we know exactly where we're going and what time everybody has to be there. Okay, so we talked about that. Now, when we arrive in Madrid, this is where um, we will probably have to make sure we're very careful in terms of staying together, okay? Because all of the signs will, of course, be in Spanish. And my experience being in Madrid, I noticed both when I arrived and when I left, there were not a lot of people who spoke English, even in the airport. Several of my fellow teachers who were there at the conference had to have translation help just because even the airport personnel did not speak a lot of English. Okay, so it's going to be important that you're staying with an adult during this time, children, but you're probably going to be helping your adults with some translation. So, as we get off the plane in Madrid, you're going to immediately exit, and I'm going to tell you, it feels like you are walking absolutely forever as you get off the plane. You're going to be going first to what's called passport control, okay? And when I say walk forever, I mean I literally probably walked for 20 minutes before I got to that part of the airport. So you're going to be walking for a long time, but you're following the sign that says passport control or control del pasaporte, which, as you know, is a cognate in Spanish. So it should be very easy for you to identify. Okay. When you get to passport control, you're going to want to have your passport out, and they are going to stamp it with an entry stamp into their country. Um, they're going to question you about why you're coming there. They're going to ask you weird questions. Well, why are you coming? Who are you visiting? Where are you staying? What company is this with? Okay, make sure you have answers to those questions and you're prepared to answer them. Okay, once you've gone through passport control, you're going to go to baggage claim and pick up your bags. This is where it's going to be helpful for us to have the Explorica luggage tag and the bandana, because as they're all coming around, you can grab anyone you see that has an Explorica luggage tag and a bandana, because not many other people are going to have that. We can go ahead and grab that and figure out who in our group it belongs to, but we can be getting them off the conveyor belt. Okay? Um, After we've grabbed our bags and we've gone through passport control, um, their airport is sort of segregated. So before you can actually enter the rest of the airport where the restrooms are, anything like that, you'll be asked to go through customs. And as you're going through customs entering the country, um, literally there was just this one guy sitting at a little desk, and I walked by. He said, "Hey, do you have anything you want to declare?" Your answer is going to be no when you're entering Spain. As you are coming back to the States, you will have things to declare if you bought things while you were in Spain. But as you're entering the country of Spain, you have nothing to declare. You haven't purchased anything yet. Your answer is no, and you just keep moving, okay? As soon as you leave customs, as soon as you go out the double doors, you should see an Explorica representative with an orange and red flag that they're waving in the air, ready to greet us. The bathrooms are also right there. By that point, I'm sure you'll be dying to go to the restroom, and our Explorica representative can watch our bags while we do that, and we can, of course, take shifts going to the restroom. Okay? At that point, we will recount again. We'll probably recount as well as we get off the plane in Madrid, of course. Um, but even then, we will continue recounting once we've all found the Explorica rep, just to make sure that all 21 of us are there before we move. Okay? So, chaperones, guys, our only job in this whole process is to make sure that our group stays together and that we're all accounted for. That is our only job. Okay, Explorica will navigate us. They will take care of absolutely everything else. Our only job is to make sure that all 21 people are there at all times. Okay? Um, as we return to the States, we'll talk about this more as we're there. The return process in the States is a lot more complicated. You're going to have, there's two different types of customs that you go to when you're coming back. One of them, the regular process is the same. You're coming home, you're going through the airport. The first time they're checking your passport again and they're doing a boarding check. They're going to ask you here if you have any live animals with you, any foods or drinks that you brought back, anything like that. You can't bring anything like that home with you unless it's in like a sealed container, like a can, or like cookies that are sealed in like a package that's airtight. That kind of thing's okay, but nothing fresh, no fruits, no vegetables, nothing like that. Okay. Um, After you've done that and gone through that initial passport check coming back to the States, you'll go through a baggage claim. And this is where they will search your bags and everything like that. You'll pick up your bag, but they're going to actually go through it while you're there. And then you drop off your bag again for the Tri-Cities, and there's a second group of people that go through it again. Okay, so this is the weird part about coming back to the States. You actually pick up your bag in Atlanta and you physically move your bag to another area of customs where they go through it, okay? So I know if you're traveling domestically in the States and you're going to Las Vegas, you check your bag in Vegas and it arrives in the Tri-Cities when you come back, regardless of how many connecting flights you have. That is not the case with our international flights, okay? You have to physically move your bag. So that's one of the weird things. And after you do that, you go through security again, and they're going to ask you if you have any declarations, and this is where you'll actually fill out a form. You'll state what you bought. You need to know exactly what you bought, and you need to know exactly how much it cost, and you need to keep the receipts, okay? They will go through your bag, and if you have something in there that you didn't declare, it can be bad news bears, okay? You also want to be as specific as possible. You don't just want to say, oh, I bought souvenirs, okay? Because that's what's going to cause you to get randomly searched. You want to be as specific as you can with your list. Okay. Um, in this area, as we're all getting checked and we're all going through customs, this is where it's very, very easy for us to get separated because some customs officers will ask you 50 questions and others will ask you one or two. So some of you maybe get, oh, what are you declaring? Souvenirs? Okay. What are you declaring? Oh, I need more detail. Oh, well, what's this? Oh, can I see this? Can I look in your bag to see this? Some people are going to be more thorough than others. So this is where we may get separated. So after we have exited customs and we are into the regular Atlanta airport, I want you to wait again on our whole group. And of course, guys, we'll review this 10 times before we leave, okay? But I want you to wait again in the airport. And this is where it's important not to stand in the middle of the aisle. Don't stand in the middle of the room. Get against the wall, somewhere where you're not in the way and people can keep moving and you're not impeding the flow of traffic. Okay, we'll talk more about returning to the States later. Let's get there first. Okay, now, while we're going abroad, while we're there, some different things you should know about safety as well. We already talked about using the numbering system. Something else you need to know is that passport checks are very, very common in public in Spain. So I know just when I was there, we were in a square one day, we were shopping, and the police were going around checking passports of random people. So your passport while you're in Spain is the same thing as like a green card for someone who is living in the United States. So you are expected to have that passport on your persons at all at all times. Even native speakers of Spanish, even residents of Spain, have their passports with them at all times. So make sure you have that. We will probably check those on the buses as we leave each day, or maybe have an adult go around and check those. We'll probably do that just to make sure that students have those. Um, Something that I feel like I don't really have to say this because we have a great group, but it's something that was suggested that I emphasize from the training, and that is that when we are on tour, if we're in a plaza and we're listening to our tour guide, or if we're on a bus and we're taking a driving tour of the city or a walking tour, whatever it might be, make sure you listen to the tour guide, guys. They are getting paid to be here. Your parents are paying a lot of money for you to learn all this information and get to experience the culture. So make sure you're not sleeping. Make sure you're not playing on your phone, that kind of thing. They've had a lot of problems with that in the past. So they just ask that we emphasize that. And after you've walked, 10 or 20 miles a day, you're going to be tired and obviously you're going to be sleepy. So it's very understandable that you finally get to sit down and the bus is finally cool and you've been hot all day and now you're sleepy, right? We understand that. But please try to make an effort to be awake and alert. Okay. Explorica also recommends putting your phone on airplane mode at all times when you're abroad, unless, of course, you're purchasing that data plan that I talked about. If you're going to do that, no worries, use your phone as much as you want to. Okay. But if you are not purchasing the data plan, put your phone on airplane mode so that as we are out and about, you're not roaming and using data and costing more on your cell phone bill. Okay. So airplane mode if possible. Parents, this is for you, okay? I know this is hard to believe, but sometimes your children are going to get so excited with what they're doing, and their days are so cram-packed. There are some days where we will start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we will not get home until midnight or 1 a.m. because they eat dinner so late. We'll be out and about all day. And, sometimes, especially with the 6-hour time difference, your kids may just forget to call you, okay, or they may forget to text or phone home. So we've asked for Explorica to keep up with a daily tour diary for our group, and this will be sort of like a journal entry, almost like a Facebook post, and they will post a picture of our group everywhere that we go. And you will be able to see in the different sites where we are. They'll give you a summary of what we did that day and talk about funny things that happened. And you'll get to kind of live with us vicariously by reading what was happening with your children and seeing those pictures. Okay, so if your child forgets to phone home, or for some of you guys, if your spouse forgets to phone home, you have those photos and you have those summaries to know what's happening. Okay, something else that is important. All of our travelers, all East students and chaperones are expected to attend all of our events each day with the group. Okay, that means that you can't say, oh man, I'm not really interested in going to a museum, or I don't really care about that cathedral. I'm just going to go shopping at the mall today, and so is going to take me. Right? We're not going to do that. Okay, we're all going to stay together. We're all going to do everything together. We will have so many hours of free time every day, and during that free time, we will be able to break up into small groups, and we can go do the things that everybody wants to do. We'll figure out who wants to do what. We'll break into small groups with all of our adults, and each adult will take a child somewhere that they want to go. Okay? But until then, we want to make sure that we are following the schedule that Explorica has set forth for us. Okay, this is something that's important as well, and this is in regard to your rooming. Now, the rooming is a little bit complicated because it may change without us knowing. And what I mean by that is as we move cities, as we go from Madrid to Granada, and from Granada to Sevilla, and from Sevilla to Costa del Sol, we'll be moving hotels 3 times, okay? And if you've ever stayed in a hotel, you know that you kind of have to depend on the hotel's availability. Of course, they'll be booking all of this in advance, but things change, okay? So we may go from having a room in Madrid with 2 twin beds to going to a room in um, Seville that has 3 twin beds. So you may go from groups of 2 students per room to groups of 3 students per room, or groups of 4 students per room. Now, at no point should you have to share a bed with anyone else. That should not happen. Okay, again, should not. we will work on those kind of situations if anything were to happen where you're in a room with a queen bed or something, okay? But generally speaking, we've requested that everyone have their own bed, so that should not be an issue. Um, but in the process, when we're changing, and you may have to go from 2 beds to 3 beds, we want to make sure that you're being respectful of your peers, okay? Don't say that you don't want to stay in a room with so and so because they're smelly, okay? Or, gosh, that Riley Nelson, she snores so loud, okay? Nobody wants to sleep in her room, right? Okay, you don't want to say something like that, right? You want to be respectful of your classmates and your peers. So, that being said, if you do have a certain rooming preference, I know that a lot of people who are going on this trip already have an idea of kind of who you like to room with. So, if you do, please let me know so that I can let the travel company know, and we will do our best to put you together. Again, that may change based on the availability of the rooms, but we will do our absolute best to make sure that you are comfortable and happy in your rooming situation. Okay? I do want to remind you that you are agreeing that you will not partake in any kind of illegal activity while we are abroad. So that means you're going to follow the school rules, okay? So that means you're not going to be vaping, you're not going to be drinking, you're not going to be sneaking out, or going out alone. And I really am serious about this, guys. You are going to be in a foreign country where a lot of people dislike Americans. You do not want to go out alone, especially at night, okay? So it's very important that you're sneaking out or that you're not sneaking out. Um, Now, of course, in a trip like this, all of you guys are wonderful students, and we are really instilling a lot of trust in you that when you go to bed at night and you're in your room, that you stay in your room, okay? Um, Myself, the chaperones, we cannot sleep in the hallways to make sure that you are not leaving your rooms, okay? That's not a thing. So there's a lot of trust that goes into this. If for any reason you are caught breaking a rule, drinking, sneaking out, going out alone, we will send you home. We will put you on a plane at your family's expense. Okay, Explorica is collecting your family's credit card and you will go home. Okay, so make sure that you are aware of that. We mean business. Okay, also while you're abroad, I will be giving you my room number everywhere that we're staying. You'll have my cell phone number as well for emergencies, both during the day and at night. Okay, so whatever may happen, you're going to have my number in my room there, my phone number for the room. You'll have my cell phone number, and you'll have my actual room number on the door, so you'll know where to go. Okay, if anything happens, you'll have that. Will be accessible for you. You'll also have some of the other chaperones' numbers. You're probably going to have our tour guide's number as well. Usually the tour guide is pretty free in providing their phone number and that kind of thing. And then Explorica has a 24-hour emergency phone number that they will share with us as well. So you'll have lots of resources if anything does happen. And that's, again, why it's important that you have a data plan if you can. Okay? Guys, I know this is a long video. I'm sorry. I just have so much to share with you. Some more safety and procedures for you, just to go over here. We've already talked about not going out alone. When we are traveling as a group, and by the way, the whole alone thing applies to both students and adults, okay? It doesn't matter if you're 40 years old or if you're 16. We don't want you going out alone, okay? You want to make sure you have at least several other people with you at all times. Now, as we're traveling in a group, I said earlier that it's the chaperone's responsibility to make sure that we are staying together. Our tour guide will be at the front of the group, and they are going to keep moving. And people in Spain walk very, very fast, okay? If you're used to a slow southern lifestyle, they are going to move, okay? So it's our job to keep the students moving. So we will put 2 chaperones in the front, 2 chaperones in the back, and 2 chaperones in the middle to keep people moving along. Guys, you're going to want to take pictures, you're going to want to stop and look at things, and we will have time to go back to places in our free time. We will have time to go in some of the stores that you're seeing that you like in our free time, but during that time when we have a tour guide, it is important that we keep up with them, okay? There were times when we were traveling as a group of adults. We were all teachers. We were all at this conference, and the tour guide was in the front of the line. Some of us were in the middle. Some of us were in the back, and we had to cross the street. And half of the group got stuck on one side of the street, and the other half got stuck on the other as we were waiting on the crosswalk to clear. The tour guide, she kept going. She was not waiting on us. She kept going. Okay. So we have to make sure that we stay together. That's why we will always have two adults in the front, two adults in the back, two adults in the middle to make sure everyone crosses safely with no problems and that we're all together. Okay. Um, Now, I want to talk to you about the metro as well, which is mostly how we'll be traveling while we're there. We will, if we're traveling with Explorica during the day, our metro will be paid for. But at night or during our free time, if we want to go back out and go to dinner or do anything special that's not included on the itinerary in our free time, we will have to buy our own metro passes. And you can get, I think it's 15 trips on the metro for like $10 or something. It's pretty cheap. Now, most students, I would say, are not familiar with riding a metro. I myself was not familiar with riding a metro, okay? And there are six major metro lines in Spain. Depending on where our hotel is, we'll probably just be navigating one of those at any given time. But since we are such a large group and those doors on the metro open and close so quickly, um, it's very similar to New York's subway station. If you've ever been to New York and you've encountered what the subways are like there, Spain will remind you a lot of that. Okay, so when we are traveling together, and let's say we have somebody who's just spaced out, they're just zoning out, not paying attention, and they forget to get on at a stop. Okay, we need to have a procedure in place if that were to happen so that there's no question what should happen. If Emmy Fox forgets to get on the subway, the metro, she knows what to do. Okay, and what we're going to do, our process, if the whole group gets on, if 20 students get on and number 21 is still standing outside, that last student is going to back up as far against the wall in the metro station as you can. You're going to go all the way to the back wall. You're not going to stand in the middle of the platform. You're going to go all the way to the back. You're going to pick up your phone and you're going to call Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison doesn't answer. You're going to call Miss Holly. Miss Holly doesn't answer. You're going to call anybody whose phone number you have until somebody answers and we know about it, okay? Of course, we'll be checking for you on the metro. We'll be making sure. We'll be doing our number system to make sure everybody's there. But again, it helps if we know you're missing quicker, okay? So in that moment, our entire group would get off on the next stop of the metro. The whole group would get off, and a designated adult, probably me, will go back, ride the metro backwards, pick you up, and ride the metro forwards again, and get back off with the whole group, and we will reunite and get back on the metro all together and go where we're going. Okay? So again, if a student forgets to get off, get against the back wall, let us know. The rest of the group will get off at the next stop. I'll come back and get you, and we will ride the metro all the way together until we reunite with the group. Okay? Now, the same thing is true if you forget to get off the metro. Occasionally, the doors do close really fast. You only have so many seconds. So if something happens and you just forget to get off the metro and 17 students get off and 5 are still on, we're going to follow that same protocol. Okay? You are going to go ahead and ride the metro to the next stop and get off at that next stop, whatever it is. Get off at that stop, go to the back wall. Get off the metro, walk all the way to the back wall as far as you can go against the wall. Our whole group will get back on the metro, we'll ride to that next stop, and we'll all get off and we'll all be reunited again and go back together. Okay? This is a major problem in Spain, the metro for big groups. This is a major, major, major issue. So this will be our process. You will get off, you will go against the wall, and you will wait. You will not leave that wall under any circumstances. Will you leave that wall unless one of the adults in our group tells you to do that, okay? You are going to wait there until somebody comes back to get you. Some other things just to know, I want you to be conscientious of pickpockets and scammers while abroad. We've already talked a lot about pickpockets. You know about the inside your shirt wallets. You know about the kavu bags for women. Scammers are something else that you need to think about, and I never would have guessed this, but in large plazas, this is especially bad. You never want to take anything from anyone. If they say that it's free, don't take it. It doesn't matter, okay? There was a guy who was walking around selling bracelets at little stations, and he came up to some of the teachers in our group and said, "Oh, you have it, it's free." And we said, no, we don't want it. And he said, no, you take it, you take it. And we said, no, we don't want it. And he threw it at us, okay? And again, we let it fall to the ground. We did not pick it up. We didn't look at it, okay? And just so happened later that day in our training, they told us those people are oftentimes really bad about saying, oh, you touched it, now you got to have it, and I need $100. Um, do not take anything from anyone, okay? Something else that you need to know, we see this a lot in the States. You see people who are dressed up like Disney characters, like Mickey Mouse or Goofy or Donald Duck or whatever. A lot of times people dress up as these cartoon characters in plazas and offer to pose with you for a picture or offer to take your picture of you and someone else in front of a monument. Don't do it, okay? They will charge you for those things. One of our speakers in at the conference was talking about how she was in Europe. She was not in Spain, but the same sort of thing happened to one of her students, and the student fell for it. And Mickey Mouse said he wanted $1,000, and she said, "I'm not giving you that. I don't have that kind of money." And Mickey Mouse like actually called the police. So don't get yourself in that situation, okay? If you want someone to take your picture, ask someone in our group. There are 21 people. Someone will be able to take your picture, okay? Don't ask anyone else to take your picture. Don't talk to strangers. And don't take anything from anybody who is not in our group or from Explorica, okay? Um, we've already talked about plugging these numbers into your phone. I want you to put my number in your phone. I want you to put the Explorica phone number in your phone, the phone number of our tour guide if it's provided, and I want you to put your fellow students' phone numbers in there too, just so we're connected. We also may download an app called WhatsApp while we're there. It works very well with Wi-Fi, and you don't have to have any kind of data to make that work. It just works with Wi-Fi. A lot of people who live in Europe use WhatsApp to communicate with one another, so it's a great way for us to communicate in a text-like fashion. So that's something I would recommend downloading as well, and we'll talk more about that later. Something else you really need to be cognizant of while you're abroad is in regard to social media, okay? I know you hear this all the time. I know we all love our social media accounts, and I know that you are just going to be dying when you're in front of the Bull Stadium or when you're at a real football game. You're just going to be dying to Snapchat your face and all kinds of stuff showing where you are, and you're going to want to put it on Instagram and all of your social apps, right? Guys, it's really important that you don't do that right in that moment, okay? If you want to do it when you get back to your hotel at night and you're on the Wi-Fi, cool. If you want to do it when you get home, even better, okay? But do not do it while we're out in public as a group, okay? A lot of those social media tags have, I forget the fancy word that was used, but it's like a geolocation function, okay? And they will actually record your location from the picture. They can see where you are right in that moment. Of course, if you're posting a picture in the football stadium in Spain, they know where you are, okay? But again, a lot of these things have geo-tracking and they can see exactly what restaurant you're in, they can see exactly what street you're on, whatever it might be. And there are people who have nothing better to do than watch out and see and stalk these students on vacation and find you and cause problems for you, okay? So do not, please post any pictures right in the moment, okay? You can take the picture and post it when you get back to your room, okay? But do not, or even better when you get home, but do not do it in the moment, okay? It's a safety issue. Make sure you don't have any self-incriminating photos out there. We've already talked about no alcohol, nothing like that. Guys, don't post any inappropriate photos of you doing anything you shouldn't be doing. Don't post a photo with a glass of wine in front of your dinner. You shouldn't be having wine with dinner, obviously, but make sure that you are not posting any self-incriminating photos. We do not want to be the reason that no other Spanish class from Sullivan East gets to go, okay? Mr. Hare, our administrators, central office, everyone has been really good about giving us permission to go on this trip, and we want to do a good job. We want to show them what it means to be a patriot. So please make sure you're on your best behavior with those kind of things. Okay, we don't want to be the reason that Sullivan County students don't get to go to another foreign country again. Okay. Um, Something else I would encourage you to do is make sure you keep your passport in the same place at all times, okay? Take those 3 extra seconds or whatever it is to put it in the same place. You do not want to lose your passport, okay? So if you just go through a passport check and you're like, oh, I normally keep it in my neck wallet, I'm just going to throw it in my back pocket for right now. Don't do it. Take those 3 extra seconds, get your neck wallet out, put it in there, slide it back under your shirt, button up your shirt, put it back where it normally goes, okay? It's worth those 3 extra seconds. Something else that's a really big issue is, and I'm horrible about doing this myself, I start talking to someone and I set my phone down. I'll set it on the table, I'll set it on the counter, I'll set it wherever I am, and it's sitting right there next to me, no big deal, right? Well, in Europe, that's a big deal. There are people who run through restaurants with bags and snatch your phones. They have some people going through with scissors and grabbing your backpacks. You don't want to deal with that, okay? Do not set your backpack on the chair next to you. Do not keep your phone or your wallet on the table. It needs to be concealed. Your backpack needs to be between your legs if you're sitting in the seat. Your wallet needs to be under your shirt or in your pocket, your front pocket. Same thing with your phone. You don't want to leave it out. Okay, it's just not a good idea where we're going. And finally, the last thing I want to talk to you about are some cultural differences. And this is kind of hard for some people to adjust to. So dates are backwards in Europe. Students who've studied Spanish know this. You would see a date written as day, day, month, month instead of month, month, day, day. Okay, so when you see 5-7, this is not talking about May the 7th. Okay, this is the 5th of July. The day comes first. El 5 de julio, the 5th of July. A lot of adults, travelers especially, tend to go on trips and they see something that's sitting out like a breakfast item or whatever, and they're like, oh my gosh, this expired 2 months ago or whatever, and really it's not expired, it's just that the dates are a little backwards in Spanish. So make sure you know that. The currency is different. Your currency is going to look kind of like this. It looks like Monopoly money. I joke when I say that, but it really it feels like Monopoly money. It's paper thin. There is no bill for €1. Okay, we're used to having a dollar bill in here in the United States. That's not something that is a thing in Europe. You'll have a €1 coin. Okay, for €1. There's also a €2 coin, which you see over here as well. And those are usually the two smallest. I believe there's a 3, but I've never seen one. It's kind of rare, like the $2 bill. So you have a €1 coin, a €2 coin, and then your next smallest bill is a 5. You go to 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, and 500. So slightly different than what you're used to. You do also have change as well. Like you can see a penny, you can see a 20-cent, and a 50-cent coin. Okay, so make sure you're aware of that, how the money is different. The other thing that is confusing to a lot of people, especially when you go to a restaurant or when you're shopping in a store, is that Europeans use a comma where we put a decimal, and they put a decimal where we put a comma. Okay, so for example, if you see 5,00, that's €5. Okay, that's the same as us putting 5.00 for $5. They're going to have a comma there instead. So 20,00 would be €20. Okay, but when you see 2.000, that is €2,000. Okay, so make sure you know the difference. Your comma and your period are going to be inverted. Okay, we've talked about tipping a little bit before. When you go to a restaurant and you're making a purchase, you do not tip. Okay, servers in restaurants in Europe are paid very well. They still have a livable wage of $50,000 or $60,000 a year and are paid quite well. Some of them even own the restaurants and things. So they find it to be quite insulting if you leave them a tip. Okay, so what's customary is if your bill is $19.75 and you're paying with a €20 bill, just leave your change, okay? They're not going to bring you any change back. Just keep that 25-cent coin as their tip. Okay, that's what's customary. You typically don't leave any other kind of tip. Okay, now we elected to have our tour director's tips and our bus driver's tips included in the costs that we're paid to Explorica, but we will occasionally have some local guides, and this will happen only two or three times, maybe not even that much, on our trip. And this is where they have a native speaker from the country come and actually share with us on a walking tour or a bus tour about different monuments in the city and things that they know about it. Okay, and we will be responsible for tipping those local guides about 2 to 3 euros per day. And I'll let you know when you need to do that in advance. Okay. Um, but otherwise, aside from those local guides and just leaving your change at a restaurant, you do not need to leave any other kind of tip. Okay. We need to talk about the restroom as well. This is a major cultural difference for a lot of people. So a lot of students taking Spanish classes learn the word baño for bathroom, which is very commonly used in Mexico and a lot of other Spanish-speaking countries. And in Spain, you will hear ¿Dónde está el baño? Where's the bathroom? But there are also lots of other words that can refer to the bathroom. In Europe, they call it the toilet. Okay, where's the toilet instead of where's the restroom or where's the bathroom? If you're out in public, just on the street, you may also see WC written on signs. WC stands for water closet, or in Spanish, armario del agua. Okay, so you'll see those signs a lot of times on various signs that you're walking throughout the city. And then in a lot of restaurants, you see the word servicios, which translates to services. Okay. If you're using a water closet, you are responsible for paying to use the water closet, and you are also responsible for providing your own hygienic paper for use in that water closet. Meaning, when you go in, all that's there is a toilet. Anything else that you need to provide on your own. Okay? Um, so, now, if you go into a restaurant and you are a paying customer, you do not have to pay to use the restroom. And generally speaking, toilet paper is always provided in those circumstances. Same for your hotel. Your toilet paper will be provided there as well, in addition to likely a bidet. Okay? So you have those things. I recommend that everyone keep just a little bit of toilet paper with them in your kabu bags or whatever, just in the event that you, on an emergency, might have to use a water closet or something. Okay. Um, Something else, another cultural difference, and I hate that I have to even say this, but um, a lot of other countries do not particularly like Americans, and in Europe, a lot of Americans get a bad rap for studying abroad when you're in college and being a loud and obnoxious American and causing a scene, right? So we want to make sure we're very low key. We want to follow everyone's directions. We want to do as we're told. We want to make sure we're not being loud and drawing attention to ourselves. Something else you need to be considerate about is the way that you dress. So, ladies, make sure as you're going into these cathedrals and churches and museums, you don't need to show anything above the knee. Okay, so like Nike shorts and those kind of things. I know it's very hot, and you're probably going to be inclined to wear things like that. Um, no tank tops, no spaghetti straps, no Nike shorts. If they can see your shoulders or they can see your knees, they're going to ask you not to come inside or they're going to ask you to leave in a lot of the cathedrals and museums. Okay, same goes for guys. Okay, you want to make sure that you're fully covered. Okay, and just some general financial advice. In the conference, they did recommend that all travelers bring some type of credit card with them for emergencies. I know that a lot of students probably don't have credit cards yet at this point in your life. So this could be an awesome opportunity if you're looking to help your child start building their credit. This is an awesome time to maybe start a very small credit line. Um, and you can do that with companies like Bank of America. They do student credit cards all the time, and you may need a cosigner or something like that. But that can be a great opportunity to build your credit. Since we're really only going to be there for 8 to 10 days, guys, I think as long as you have a debit or a credit card so that you can get money out if you need to out of an ATM, I think you'll be fine. In worst case scenario, we can always text mom and dad and they can transfer more money or whatever if you need some, okay? But you definitely need some kind of card available to you. And having a credit card for emergencies is not a bad idea. I will be bringing several credit cards and extra cash and things like that. So if any student does have any trouble, we will make sure your children are looked out for. Okay, we'll make sure they won't go hungry. We'll make sure they get home, all that good stuff. So, and we'll settle up with you later if we have to. Okay, but no worries there um, on that agenda. Okay. Other general financial advice. Um, Remember that the experiences and the things that you're doing while you're there are way more valuable than any kind of photographs you're going to take or any kind of possessions. I was very guilty of this when I studied abroad my first time. I lived my entire time behind a camera. I wanted to take a picture of everything, everywhere we went. I wanted to get a selfie and I wanted to get a picture of whatever monument, okay? Don't do that. Okay, don't do that. Don't live behind a camera. You want to see these things with your own eyes. You're a lot more likely to remember them that way. And sure, you want to get some pictures, but don't try to take a picture of everything. Experience the moment. Something else that can be really powerful is every day when you get home, before you go to bed at night in your hotel, take a little journal and just jot down what you did that day. Just a few little things, just things you remember, cool facts. Jot those things down and keep track of them. And then whenever you look back on it in 10 years, you'll be like, wow, I remember that. And you can always go back and add your pictures later and make it into a scrapbook if you'd like. Okay. Something else that Explorica mentioned is very common. As a student, we know that you have limited resources and limited money that you're bringing with you. Make sure that you're not avoiding eating lunch or buying a snack or buying water so that you can buy souvenirs for yourself or for your friends. Okay, it's important that you're eating well and drinking a lot. It's going to be very hot, so you need to make sure you're hydrated and that you're eating a balanced meal. Okay, you also don't have to buy something for every single person in your life. Okay, understandingly, you probably want to buy something for your parents and maybe a sibling and friends, but don't try to buy something for every little person. A great gift is buying a postcard. Postcards in Europe are beautiful. You can have them framed when you get home, and it makes a great little gift. There are also smaller gifts that you can purchase, like magnets and things like that, that are not going to weigh a lot. You want to be cognizant of whatever you buy and of its weight because you can't go over the 50-pound limit on your check bag, that is, as you're coming home. Okay, I would recommend exchanging some money in advance. I typically always do mine in the airport just a little bit, and then I usually bring some, anything else that I need, I'll get out of an ATM. But I recommend going ahead and changing some over. It is definitely cheaper if you have your bank do it. Like if you call Eastman Credit Union or wherever you bank and tell them, hey, I want to change $500 into euros, they can go ahead and do that for you. And then if you needed any more money while you're there, you could just let Eastman know that you're traveling abroad and then use an ATM and get more money out. Okay, so definitely have some money with you whenever we leave the Tri-Cities airport so that it's not an issue. Or if you forget, make sure you have some US dollars with you so that you can change those over in Charlotte or in Atlanta if we need to. Um, Okay, last thing, guys, do make sure you let your banks and your credit card companies know that you're traveling abroad several weeks in advance. Make sure they know that you're going to be in Spain and that you give them the specific dates so that your card will work abroad. Um, they do accept Visa there, okay? I believe MasterCard is also accepted, but I'm not 100% on that. Everywhere that I went accepted Visa. I'm aware of that for sure. And I know that they 100% do not accept Discover in Europe. Okay? So, as for now, guys, that's everything that I have for you. I hope you found this video to be informative and helpful. And of course, if you have any other questions about anything, please do let me know. Get me those copies of your passports as soon as possible. And I'll be in touch with you about another Spain meeting very soon. Thank you so much and have a wonderful night, guys. Take care.